Hey guys, welcome to episode 13 of Into the Van. Episode 13, the number 13, unlucky for some, lucky for us. We have the Danberrys in conversation today, and I'm so happy I got to sit down with these guys. I've been listening to them for a while, but there's so many people that I want to talk to that you kind of forget how many people there are you want to talk to. And as a duo, I think that's a really interesting dynamic. I've not spoke to a duo yet about their songwriting process and performance and touring and things. So it wasn't until I messaged Charles Wesley Godwin's publicist from the previous episode to try and get him in for a talk. And, she was kind enough to say, well, is there anyone else from our roster that you'd like to talk to? And then offered the Danberrys if they were available. And I was like, holy shit. Of course, I'd love to talk to Dorothy and Ben. And I think this is a really fun conversation. We talk about, songwriting, go into personal and spiritual aspects of it all, dig into some meaning. We don't want to dig too much, and I talk about this in the podcast, because you don't want to dig too much into songs, especially as a fan and as an artist. You don't want to see how the sausage is completely made. So I think this is a really fun talk. And yeah, it was such a happy coincidence that this podcast came about with the Danberrys, because, they've just released Shine. It came out in May, and it's also just come out in the States. And it's a fucking phenomenal record, and you need to go listen to it as soon as you can. We get into a lot of the songs here and the process behind them, and releasing it, promoting it. I think this is really interesting conversation. So, let's get on with it. Of course, this podcast is brought to you by me and my record, The Next Life. It's been out a few months now. Well, it's been out a month if this is coming out in September, so I'm hoping it's still being well received and people are still listening to it. I wanted this album to be something you could come back to time and time again, and so far the reception has been that it is like that, so I'm fucking thrilled and I'm stoked, and I can't believe I get to do all this and you guys are along for the ride. So this is The Next Life.
As the fire dies and we say our goodbyes, I hear the ghost of me say, all the battles we lost and the wars that we won go on to define us someday. We'll let the summer pass and move on at last to the seasons that make us age. But at least I will know that the older we grow, in the chapters we share the same page.
And if you want to pick up a copy of that, you can stream it wherever you want. You can head over to my Bandcamp at mike333west.com and pick up a physical copy there. Also, go listen to the Danberrys and stream their music. Shine is a phenomenal album. And we go into all this. So without further ado, this is episode 13 of Into the Van with Mike West and the Danberrys. Let's do it. Welcome to Into the Van with me, Mike West. Go! And we're rolling. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
So your album Shine came out in May. What's been, because it's 3 months old, I guess. What's the reception been so far once you've released it now and you're able to kind of gauge public reaction and things?
Well, we're actually just now starting to really gauge that, because we were released in Europe, UK, and New Zealand in May, but we pushed our US release back to it just out last Friday, or July 24th.
Yeah.
Because our publicist here, just because of the COVID lockdown, thing had to be pushed. So
yeah,
but
writers were getting laid off, and she was like, I don't even know who to pitch the album to right now.
Really?
It was supposed to come out May 8th, I think, was our original release date. And right when everything started happening. Like it was like a month before that, and we were gearing up. We'd already released 2 singles, and our publicist in the UK and Europe, he just kept going, and he was like, business as usual. So that's why we went ahead and released it in the UK. But our publicist in the US was like, I don't even know who my contacts are anymore.
Yeah.
So everybody's
Yeah. The response has been great. I mean, it's like, it seems like it's, albums take a long time to come out usually anyway, they take longer than everyone, the artist, and anyone involved in making the record, it always takes longer than you thought. And then now having 2 release dates, it just seems like the release has just been ongoing because it kind of happened.
This has been the longest release we've ever.
Yeah.
It started in January.
Yeah, like the full on, all the press that we got from, Europe and the UK. And then right around the time that kind of started waning off, we started getting the US press. And so it's like, it kind of just keeps coming. And so.
Yeah, but we still have 2 music videos that we haven't released yet. And our radio campaign just started. So it's like.
Really?
Yeah, so we're still kind of in the middle of it over here.
But to answer your question, like it's been great. I mean, we've had good response to the record. It's a quite a bit different sounding record than our previous ones, and our previous ones were a little more earthy acoustic. And
Earthy.
This new one is a little more rock and roll, and so I feel like the reception's been good. Writers, mostly Scottish writers, that weren't too keen on the new record. I think
they like the old stuff.
I think they like the old, that's okay.
Yeah, well, that's that's expected when you change your sound so drastically. But yeah, we've gotten a lot of really good reviews, and we've been very happy with the way it's been received.
Yeah. Because when I was listening to the record, I was not surprised by the instrumentation and the kind of feel for it, because it is a more not a rock and roll record, but it's got that kind of vibe. And for me, the first thing I always thought when I was listening to Shine was it's an optimistic record. It's got a lightness of it's not got a heavy weight to it. It's got something that's quite buoyant. When I was listening to it, was that a conscious decision with the instruments and how you're writing them, or was it just kind of a happy accident?
The songs, I think, were written with that in mind. Kind of. I mean, it was just kind of like a period of we write music that comes from kind of what we're living at the moment a lot of time, or things that we've recently gone through, and so this is kind of like a rebirthing kind of record, or in a lot of senses.
I mean, a lot of the material on that record was written, all of the material on that record was written during a really hard time. And we are just, as individuals and as a band together, we're very, what's the word? I guess because we've been through so much as individuals and as a band, we just have this, we have developed a hard-earned fortitude, you know what I mean? And so a lot of the songs are about overcoming struggles, because we were still kind of in the middle of kind of coming down the other side of the mountain from some of these huge challenges that we had been facing. And so that's probably why you because it's funny that you say that, because some people are like, this album is dark, but there's this there is an optimism there, but there's a lot of material, and it really is both. It if you listen to the lyrics, a lot of it is dark, but there's always we just can't help having this optimistic outlook even in the middle of complete hell. So that's kind of what comes through.
A lot of pushing through, diversity or hard times. It's kind of
just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Kind of the theme, I think, of this record, for sure.
Yeah, screw this hard, but we're to the other side, and we're very spiritual people and not religious. I like to say that. Not religious people, but we do have a lot of spirituality and mysticism, we our lyrics stuff.
Yeah. I think that's even just like talking to you briefly now, I think that comes across where there's this like, not a darkness, but there's this like weight and like seriousness and gravitas to things. But like there's this thing, and like loads of people trying to attribute to like the British, where it's like the Blitz spirit and stiff upper lip and, you know, carry on and whatever. But that's not a uniquely British thing. I think even when we were just talking like before I hit record about like COVID and how people are dealing with it, you can't help but kind of like laugh your way through it. And I think it's just a coping mechanism that a lot of people have to be like, well, this is dog shit, but what else can you do? And you just have to keep going forward. And I think that's like an inherently just like universal thing. And I love to see it on not only like records, but in people, because I hate this idea that it'd be like one nation's like defining trait when it's such a universal thing that I think people take for granted. Is that like determination and drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have it too, even though we live in America. We're developing, I think we're all developing that a lot right now.
I think that's
everywhere.
Pretty, the human race has been pretty dependent on that.
Yeah.
Really. Really, if you look at how dark our history as a species has been, it is dark, you know. That, and you think about, because I think about this a lot, like when I'm struggling through stuff, I'm like, man, you think about the blood of your ancestors is literally running in your veins right now. I mean, that's like, it's in your DNA. And think about this they overcame. They overcame plagues and just terrible wars and like the dark ages. And, you know, like we really do have some major strength like built into us as human, you know.
I think there's a resilience underneath everything that I think just like is like to the core of, I think, like everyone. Because even I remember I watched The Revenant and just seeing that as a fictionalized version, I was like, I wouldn't fucking do any of that.
I know. I would just sat down by that tree and just died, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was looking at it, but I also like Googled it, and I was like, and at the same time, I thought there was Pirates in the Caribbean, so it's like I either freeze to death in like somewhere in like the north of America, or I can just go down to the Caribbean and maybe get shot at. I don't know how like the cold countries ever got like a population or a civilization going when, you know, no one had roots. You could just move to somewhere hot and less likely to get mauled to death by a bear.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Like, I don't know. I can handle a lot of like internal struggles, but if you stuck me out in the actual physical elements with bears and like freezing temperatures and stuff, I think I'd be like, peace out, see you next life.
yeah I always say this, like I've got a lot of motivation and drive for my music and things like that, and like passion and pursuits, but if someone was like, you have to like hike a year to the other side of the country to then set up another civilization, and you might not make it and you'll never see your family again, I'd be like, I'll wait here.
The same. I don't know. I've never actually thought about it.
I like adventure. I'd probably try.
Yeah, Ben would be like, sign me up, he'd be driving the wagon.
Yeah. But then I think that's again what, like, obviously there's this drive in the human core, but then all it needs is one person to go, I think I could make it. And then the other guys will be like, I can't let him do it and me not do it. And then you end up hiking across this like mountain range.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't know. I think I'd stay at home. Yeah, I think it's the young. It's like the early 20-somethings that venture to the new world. I don't know. I think I would have stayed home. I've been like, you know what? It's cool. I'll just be like oppressed.
And like one of the things from like obviously listening to music and reading your biography and things, you don't follow the beaten path. And I've been, just before this podcast, I was watching, have you seen Logan, the last like Wolverine film?
Oh, no. But I do know who that is.
Well, I was watching it, and I've been kind of thinking about how they made this R-rated superhero film in the middle of like a superhero craze. And that film has stood out as one of the most critically acclaimed, you know, beloved films. And it's always, you know, even if you look at like yourselves and your previous albums, including this one, and you look at artists like Sturgill Simpson or whoever, they kind of define a path that a lot of, you know, mainstream outlets would say isn't a path to tread down. But that is where fans and stuff always connect. Like that seems to be the one, even if it's not critical acclaim, it's connects to a lot more people for some reason. And you guys have like, because I know you wouldn't intentionally, you know, you don't write this to go fuck the establishment or this is our own path. It's just something you need to do. But has that ever come across your mind as to like the reasoning behind that or how that relates to your fan base?
I mean, we were pretty green when we first started, and it was just kind of like we like to play music, and we wrote some songs, and let's make a record, and it'll be fun, and let's be like wacky.
And all of our friends were bluegrass musicians, so
yeah. But I mean, we, as each record goes on, like we still write songs, just that they just kind of come out however they come out. You know, we're not necessarily trying to fit a mold.
Yeah, we don't use like formulas at all. We just kind of write from the heart.
Yeah. But I mean, but with the newest record, like we had, for the first time, we had like an outside producer, one of which drummer, who was an amazing musician, and he kind of helped us rework some of the structures of some of the songs to maybe make them a bit more not as like out there as we had them, just like, you know, odd time signatures here and there, and like kind of.
He took out all the odd time signatures that we had.
What were those debates like with someone? Obviously, you guys write together, and it's a close-knit thing. For someone to come in and say that this, you know, not necessarily isn't going to work, but with these time signatures things, what was that debate like when you were going in?
We hated it. Like we hated it. We hated it, and we're like, oh, because like he like didn't come at us with like these ideas till like literally like weeks before we were going to the studio,
right? Yeah.
And so it was kind of felt last minute, and we'd already been gigging some of the songs and felt like we had gotten to know them, and
we were like, oh, you're changing, like, and when you change like little things about a song at the last minute, like right before you go into the studio, it's like trying to wrap your head around. You've just gotten so like in playing it and singing it a certain way. But like as far as like disagreeing with Marco,
well, I mean, at the end of the day, though, like we're like, well, we'll try it, and then like we'd try it, and then it was either like, well, yeah, that's better,
yeah, that's
or it would be like, well, I don't know if it's better or not, but it's not any worse, so let's just do it. Like, you know, now I couldn't even tell you how any of the songs used to go, you know, because like it's just so. I mean, I think like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was kind of a sidestep from the question you asked, but I mean, I think that definitely, like, you know, it's like you want to, you know, we've been playing music for 10 years, and so like you do want people to like be able to like jump on board, and like you want people to listen, you know, and be a part of it, and like that's part of what you're doing, is trying to grow, you know, your audience, so you can keep doing it. But you know, it's like it's just kind of, I mean, there's a lot of bands that are like us that I feel like it's been interesting to watch. You know, they kind of came up in the acoustic roots community, kind of bluegrass, and then like every record on, they kind of get a little further away from that and a little more like, well, now we have drums, or now we have this, and you know, and some of them kind of go make a jump more towards pop. You know, it's like, well, we're bluegrass pop, you know, or like for us, I think it was just it's all been song driven, and then like with this latest record, like we just wrote songs, and then our producer happened to put together this like super awesome band that just like that we never would have put together here.
And Mark, producer, is an amazing drummer. I mean, he's like our dream drummer. So like when we got him on the project, we were like, yes, like we couldn't have, like, I almost don't think that I would have wanted any other drummer. I can't even think of another drummer that I, because his sound is just so exactly what we wanted. Because we've always been very rhythmically focused, you know, even without drums. People would always say, wow, it's just like, I don't even miss the drums listening to you guys, because we were percussive with our instruments. So I forgot what the original question was. Are we rambling?
No, this is the best thing. This is why I enjoy podcasts. I've been doing a few interviews. I'm releasing an album on Friday, and I've been getting asked like things, and it was nice because I've been sitting down and doing these podcasts, and I did a radio interview, and I had to fit basically what I talk about for an hour into 5 minutes.
Nice,
So ramble away because I absolutely love, because all the tangents and things you just explore, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
We were totally thankful and grateful to Marco for coming in and kind of straightening our stuff out and making it a little bit more accessible. Because I think in the end, like I think it's a better record.
She says accessible. And unfortunately, for lots of radio, like for lots of the bigger formats that you kind of need to be on to some degree to be taken seriously, to be considered to play the festival you want to play, or, you know, whatever it might be, like there is a bit of a formula, you know, or not so much a formula, but there's definitely some things that like aren't going to get you there. You know, like song-wise, arrangement-wise, production-wise. And so thankfully, like we were in good hands on all that, and we just got to be the creative folks and write some songs and be like, hey, look at our songs. And they're like, okay, those are cool. We can work with those, and let's do this. And so, and it was like, you know, it all worked out, and we learned a lot on this record. I mean, I've always been the primary guitar player on the previous records, and on this one, I wasn't on a lot of the tracks. And the couple guys that were playing guitar on this record were just phenomenal, and I learned so much, like sitting across from them, watching them work. I mean, we cut it all live, so it all went down live, and so I'm sitting right across from, you know, some of the greatest Boston musicians, you know, seasoned, and you know, cool cats, and like, you know, just super tasty players. And so we definitely, like, between learning how to better arrange our songs and then just the different recording process with different people, we definitely learned a ton that I think was going to carry over to the next record. So hopefully, you know, I guess the idea is to always make your next record, like, hopefully it's as good or better than the last one, you know. That's, you know, like, that seems like the process to me anyway. Hopefully. Yeah. That's the goal.
And just to like go into your process a bit, obviously you talk about like you guys are the core of writing and stuff. So on a song like Francis, how did that originate? Because I don't like saying explain your songwriting process, because that's like trying to describe the color of the sky. But I feel like you can hone in on a specific song, and that origins, it gives a bit more of like a more refined insight into it. But either Francis or, you know, is there a particular song from Shine that you remember writing and seeing its evolution from the first chords to the record?
He's looking at me because Francis was one of the songs. I mean, they're all different. So like Ben basically wrote Love Conquers War and Rain, and I helped him write the chorus for Rain, and I maybe changed 2 words on Love Conquers War. Francis was one that I had in the bag already. I had written it, I don't know how long ago. I mean, I feel like that's that one had been around for a little while, and I had been trying to get it on every record. The people that we had worked with before, like, didn't feel like it was, you know, Danberrys material. So when Marco picked this one, we sent them like several songs, like 20-something songs or 30 songs or something. And when he wrote back and said he wanted to cut Francis, I was like so excited, because that's one that I'd been trying to get recorded for a while. And I mean, I feel like we did finish it though. Like we had, like it had, I had all like the elements, and then Ben and I sat down and like arranged, like, okay, what's the bridge going to be? What's, you know, we like put it together and made it an actual song, and then sent that off as a demo.
Yeah. That song in particular, though, like, I mean, a lot of the songs on the record had never been played live, or had really never been played anywhere other than with Dorothy and I in an acoustic guitar, you know, like in our house. Yeah. And so, like, to hear Francis now, it sounds like Pink Floyd or something, you know, like, you know, like, I mean, parts of it are like kind of, to me, I hear some of that stuff in there. And so, like, you know, that was like really the first time we ever, you know, heard it that way was when that was probably that was probably a 1 or 2 take song. We didn't even really run the songs in the studio with the musicians before we played them down. You know, we kind of just talked over the charts and then like, all right, we'll hit record and let's see what happens. And so like, you know, it happened so fast, but then like, you know, just, which I think was part of the magic of making the record that way is like, you know, it's like we've written the song, but then we're hearing it in real time and it sounds like something we've never even imagined really. And vibing off that and getting energized by that, I think that goes onto the tape too, you know, like that excitement.
I don't know. It sounded pretty much exactly the way I wanted it to sound. I always heard that song. Like big and awesome. That was one that I had in my head. I was like, this one's going to get recorded and it's going to sound so big and awesome. But our process is like, as far as like songwriting, is just so, like you said, it's so different every time. Usually one of us has a little bit of a something and, you know, kind of bring it to the table. Like I know like on Shine, like Ben had like the melody and the chorus and he was just playing it, or maybe you were just playing the riff. But I like stole that from him. I was like, I'm writing the lyrics to that one. And I took it and just started working on it. It's just so different every time. Like, and like on Miss Moses or The River Is Wide. Sorry, we changed the name of them. On The River Is Wide, I was walking through the living room and Ben was like playing his guitar and he like played like the riff like on Miss Moses and I just sang a little bit to him. You know, I was like, we can run, but they keep coming. And we just like looked at each other like, oh, damn, that was good. And then we just kind of were like, okay, let's reconvene on that tonight, you know? And so we did, and it's just so different, like every song. And then like we wrote 30 songs with John Weisberger, and he's like, we went to his house every day and sat down at his kitchen table, you know, and he had his laptop and he was typing his lyrics. And I had my, like, Ben and I each had like a little notepad. We're old school. And we sat at the table and like hammered out a song until we had them, you know? So every single song was written so differently, you know? Like the process is just so different. I'm trying to think. Usually I am more of the lyric person. Like I'm more picky, or I enjoy that part more. And then Ben's really good at the like the chord structures and stuff like that. So we kind of, and this was actually the first one that we co-wrote. Like every other album we've put out, either I wrote it and I sang it, or Ben wrote it and he sang it and I sang harmony with him.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So this one we co-wrote pretty much every song. I mean, even the songs that one of us mostly wrote, the other one person at least helped us a little bit on it. So,
and with writing, you say up to like 30 songs, was that in between like the last album and this album? Was that 30 new songs?
Kind of. I mean, some of them had been hanging around for a while, you know, some maybe weren't ready, or, you know, we just like,
or we had part of it and we finished it.
I mean, you know, you write songs, I assume you're putting out a record. So, but you know, like most songwriters have, like, whether it's on their phone, or, you know, Dorothy used to have a little recorder with a small little tape in it, you know, and like, or like then we got fancy and she had like a digital one, you know, and but you know, like you keep your little notes and hopefully you don't lose them over the years, and one day you need a bunch of songs and you start combing through them. And so I think like out of those 30 songs, like probably 10 or 15 were ideas that had been around, you know, that had not been totally forgotten. And then like, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 of them were kind of new creations for sure.
Yeah, brand new.
And honestly, I feel like most of the ones that were selected to go to the studio were the newer ones that we'd written.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, I mean, like the 3 songs that we finished with John Weisberger, it's like The Road, Holding the Bag. Was that one of them? No, I don't think it was. Never Gone, The Road, and then there was one more that we did.
It's not on the record.
That's not on. Oh, it's not on the record.
I don't remember.
Anyway, those were like old songs that I had like a verse or two and a chorus, and I just like hadn't finished them. And I was like, and they were like unfinished songs that like I just never forgot because I really liked them. And I was like, okay, we have to co-write this record because that's what one of our co-producers wanted us to do. And so we didn't really know how to do that because we like had never successfully co-written anything together before. So that's why we pulled John in at the beginning, because we were like, we need to learn how to like do this. Because, you know, it's like talking to each other professionally and working on a song is communicating in that setting is totally different from the way you communicate as a husband and wife. And never really been able to like make that jump and like be super professional with each other in the songwriting process. And it always ended up in like tears or like anger. Or, like,
I was usually the one crying.
Ben was always crying.
She made me cry. Yeah. Black eye.
It's usually me, you know, I guess. I was probably always the one crying.
That's something I've always found fascinating, because there's such like a storied history of co-writing and like working together to write songs, and I've always been on the outside of that, where it's something so personal that you have to then bring to the table to then share with someone else who then may try and take that idea that you're so beholden to, that it can't help but cause like a friction sometimes.
It's hard.
That was my theory on why we weren't able to co-write for the first few albums, because I felt like it was those were our first, like our EP, and then our first two full lengths after that, which were the three before the new one. Like, like, you know, that was kind of those are our like first times of being able to kind of like write our own songs and put them out there. And I feel like we had like a lot that we personally wanted to say that we'd been saving up our whole lives, you know what I'm saying, to like say this thing. And so when we were writing the first 20-25 songs that we released, I think it was very personal, and I think that had a lot to do with us not really being able to open up to each other, to trust her with my sacred, you know, idea or whatever it was, you know. But then the new record was kind of like, okay, we both kind of said our own piece in our own way, so let's do it different. So
and now I love. I mean, we were kind of scared to co-write in the beginning because we were just like, can we even do this? What's this going to be like? And now we're like, yes, like I don't even want to write a song without Ben. I don't know how he feels.
No comment.
But that's such an interesting thing, because obviously I'm only a solo artist, so I've only seen duos from the outside, and you'd think with a duo who's obviously married and spent like a long time together, they'd work almost seamlessly together, but that kind of undermines what a relationship is as well, because as a songwriter, you have your own voice that you're trying to get across and present to the world, and you're also trying to present your idea to it. And that's the same thing in a relationship, where it's like, well, this is who I am and that's who I am, and you don't want to, you know, compromise too much of yourself to lose like the integrity of it. So as a duo, it must have been like really interesting and like a hard way to kind of go through the initial career to try and be like, get both of your voices across in an accurate way.
That is very true.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's tricky because, you know, like, I mean, just your normal band where people aren't in relationships, you know, can blow up at the drop of a hat, like, you know, in a rehearsal, like, hey, Timmy, your guitar line needs to be different, you know, or hey, that bass line sucks, why don't you do something else, you know, kind of get mad, blow it up. But I mean, it like when you're married and you're like rehearsing or you're working up a show, I mean, it's like you figure out real soon that you have to like be gentle in your communications, or, you know what I'm saying? It's like you almost have to like put on your like, oh, I'm in a band now hat and I'm not married. And so now like we're communicating things about the music, and I'm not knocking you as a person by saying this, or you know, you're not knocking me. Like, this is outside of our marriage. This is music, and like working on it. And it's hard to separate that a lot of times. It took a long time to kind of get, you know, to that place where you can, whether it's writing a song together or like just working up your show or whatever it is, you know, it's like it can be pretty deep, you know, like as far as, because I mean, just, you know, I mean, people in bands that have been in bands together for a long time. I mean, that's kind of like a marriage too, you know. And it's very, you know, people are very passionate about their art, and but then you put like you're living and married to someone on top of that, and it's just like it can be real confusing at first, you know. And
but I definitely think that he touched on something about like getting your creative voices to kind of like work together and also not like lose yourself in it. Right. Because like the first EP, or the only EP, the first thing we released, our EP, it was 4 songs that Ben wrote. I mean, they were all Ben, you know, it was all Ben. And I hadn't really written anything at that point. And when I started writing stuff, it was kind of more like, you know, feminine. Like Ben's stuff was kind of like dry. He was like really into bluegrass at the time and was really aggressive. And like his songs were like these like really aggressive kind of like bluegrass tunes. And here I come along with my like sad girl songs, you know. And so it was kind of weird and hard to sort of get my voice in there. And I think if you listen to our discography like in order, you kind of see that happen, where it's like the EP was like a very masculine sort of like record, and then I start coming in and it becomes like softer and like you can hear my voice, my literal voice, and my songwriting sort of come in, and it was hard to do that because I felt a little weird at first, like, oh, are my sad, you know, like sort of feminine songs like gonna fit into this thing that we've got going? And Ben, I remember you kind of struggled a little bit like playing guitar on those songs because you just were not used to playing guitar like that. And so it really has evolved over the years, where we were like separate, you know, and kind of had our own sounds going. And then over the years, we've kind of grown together. And then I would say like this album is definitely the first time where you really get to hear like, what does it sound like when Ben and Dorothy get together and like make music that is a total amalgamation of the two of them. You know, not like one person compromising for the other, but like 12 songs that are 50% Dorothy, 50% Ben, you know?
And throughout your songwriting, have you found, obviously you talk about like masculine and feminine ideals, have you found yourselves kind of switching those perspectives from your songwriting? So you'll, you know, Dorothy writes something a bit more like, you know, for lack of a better term, masculine, or something a bit more driven. And Ben, is it more like, are you not afraid to show your softer side, or something a bit more delicate, really?
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, some of my favorite songs that I've personally written are the more softer ones, chill, kind of like introspective. But no, I mean, I don't know. Dorothy like writes songs too that you know are aggressive, and you know. So I mean, I think on this record on Shine, there's covered a lot of ground. I feel like with all the different songs, you know, they're all, no two are really the same, you know, and then like there's a wide variety. Some of it sounds like Southern rock, and some of it sounds like psychedelic rock, and some of it like I don't know what it sounds like, but it's like cool, you know, like I don't know.
I feel like we've both over the years gotten comfortable exploring like both sides of the coin, you know, of the masculine feminine coin. Like I remember trying to write songs for the last 2 albums previous to this one that were more, you know, kind of like up-tempo, aggressive kind of songs. Like did that intentionally. And Ben, I think some of his better songs are his best songs are the more feminine songs too, which he wasn't really writing so much at first. So I think we've learned from each other and pushed each other, and definitely grown because of because we're in a duo together and we've had to, because it is harder, you know, get everything your way.
Yeah, I've always found it weird with like masculine ideals in like art and stuff, because, you know, if you look at, you know, the epitome of who like men are in like film and stuff. So if you look at Clint Eastwood, for example, as like one of the most iconic men in film, but you break down like what he was actually doing, which was still playing dress up and putting on makeup and then pretending.
Yeah.
And you kind of pick apart those things, and it's like all these masculine ideals that have been portrayed in art still have like this emotional core to it that I think can be forgotten in a lot of stuff. And it's even with like music and stuff, you can have someone with all this swagger and stuff, but if you strip it back, it's a guy singing about how much a girl's hurt his feelings or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about music, is that it really is like both sides. It is very masculine and feminine all at the same time. It really never is both, or just one and not the other. I always thought about the lyrics. To me, for whatever reason in my head, I always think of the lyrics as being the more feminine part, because that's where you're connecting with your emotions, you know. And then the masculine part is sort of like the, to me, it's like the form, right, of the song, and like the angles of the way the song turns and the chord progressions changing. And it's like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but that's how I always think of music.
No, that's a really interesting thing. I think, you know, I've never thought of it in that way, but I think if you kind of look at it like that, it is like the emotional meeting the like methodical in terms of progression and structure and chord placement and things. It's like the perfect, it is, again, it's just like the union of those things to create something that can connect. But you were saying at the beginning about like spirituality and things. Have you tried to get that across much in your work and things? Because I have like, not like, I'm not a Buddhist, but I have like Buddhist leanings, and I've read a lot of books on that type of stuff. So a lot of my songs is me trying to reconcile those beliefs and things. Do you guys do the same thing with your work?
Yeah, I think that our spirituality definitely is really, really clear if you pay attention to some of the lyrics. Like, for instance, Francis is about a past life that I knew.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a lot of that in there that you wouldn't really know unless you asked, you know. But we definitely, like, because I feel like that's why we do this, right? Like, I feel like, you know, you're kind of here. There's a reason why we're all here. Like, we all have like a purpose and a gift and something that we're bringing, and in my belief system, I guess, I think that it's all about service, right? So like, I think that we intentionally try to infuse our music with high vibrational healing energy, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. Like, that's what our purpose is here. And it's not just music. Like, I also do energy healing and, you know, other stuff like that. So I think it definitely is a huge, huge, huge part of the music, and you might not really notice it unless, you know, I like, you hear me talking about it explicitly. But there's a lot of like mysticism and symbolism weaved into the lyrics.
That's cool. And Francis, that because I remember listening to, and like, I've pulled the lyrics up and things, and it's such like an important story, and it's delivered with such emotion that, like, now you've said that, that makes complete sense. To that song is just like another little thing that like clicks, and you go, oh shit, yeah, that's the whole, like, not the whole picture, but that's another aspect of it that's kind of like revealed.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to hear people guessing about what it's about. Nobody ever guesses that.
That's the funny part about the whole process of putting out a record, and, you know, like, reviewers and like, you know, all these people that do reviews, they all handle it different, and some of them, like, the occasional reviewer likes to try to guess what every song's about, you know. And it's like,
really funny.
It can be really funny. We had a few funny ones on this record where somebody about Francis, one of the viewers was like, yeah, they're like, I guess it's about like Pope Francis and like about
getting that Catholic Church back in order.
Yeah, getting the Catholic Church back in order. That was his take on it.
That's so it's so interesting that someone would take that perspective, but then obviously that's a bigger reflection on them than you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was what it was. We got a good laugh out of that.
I mean, he wasn't that far off.
Right.
It wasn't that far off. I mean, definitely not about the Pope, but Francis was a priest in the Catholic Church, so it was interesting that he picked up that part of it. So it's cool.
I always remember I can't remember who tweeted it or wrote it, but someone said that when a songwriter explains their song, it's like a magician revealing their tricks. So I don't like to like deep dive too much with artists in case I don't want to strip away the person's belief system, because there's so many songs that you kind of build up to be like, oh, it means this or it means that. And it's so much more fun to see the life that it takes. And even sometimes, you could say that and then that review could be like, no, it's definitely about the Pope. But it's
and it can be, and that's like we intentionally do that. Like we do try to keep some mystery, just so that the songs can mean whatever they need to mean. People, because you do sometimes, like when you hear, oh, that's what that song is about, then it's something else. I mean, this has happened to me where I thought a song was about a certain thing and it really connected with me. I found out it was about something else, and it kind of was like, oh, like doesn't mean that to me anymore, So it is kind of nice to like leave a little mystery there so people can feel free to like make it what it needs to be for them. I mean, we do music for ourselves, but we also make it for other people. It's a gift to other people. So I want to leave it open enough that they can do with it what they need to.
Do you think that's something kind of not the country or Americana genres cursed with, but with a lot of other genres like hip hop or like metal, there's these overt meanings that people like argue over all the time. So if you look at Black Sabbath, they'd be saying how like a lot of people would say it was about like Satan or something, and the band could come out and say, no, it's definitely about this, but people would still like ignore it. While with country and like these type of genres, people seem to want to pick it apart a bit more to get to the root of it. I don't know if it's because they think it's a more honest form of storytelling, but people seem to want to really do a deep dive on your songs or things like that.
Yeah, they really do. I think that you're right. I think that it's just like a genre thing. Like country music is like, I feel like
usually pretty obvious what it's about.
Like country music fans typically want to know what you're talking about.
It's like, oh, he stayed at the bar too long and had 2 extra beers, and now his wife's mad. And that's what the song's about. I understand.
Yeah.
like there you go.
But I feel like maybe that's not totally accurate to say that all country music fans are like that. It's not true, but like that's what you'll run up against. A lot of times when you're songwriting and like for a country format is like people traditionally, that's traditionally how country songs have been written. You don't want your user or your listener to have to guess at what you're singing about. But to me, that's what makes music.
That's
so awesome.
That's the fun of it.
Yeah, that's the fun part is like trying to guess what it's about. And, I don't know. I don't like it. I mean, I honestly don't like to be told exactly what a song is about. I don't like it when it's like super obvious. I'd rather have a little mystery there,
Or sometimes there could be a song where like you don't really like think you like it, but then you think it's about something, but then you actually hear the story behind it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, okay, that's an amazing song. Like I don't know, like there's this like pop song that I'm sure everyone's heard a million times, like called "Closing Time" or something. It's like "Closing Time," da 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 da. You know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I always just
Green Day?
No, I don't know who it was, but it was like it was a big huge song. It was like all over the radio for forever, and and I always just assumed like, oh, that's a song about the bar, right? Well, not. It was a song that was written about like the nursery ward, like in a hospital, like where the babies are.
Really?
And so the next time you listen to that song, if you know that, it's like, it's pretty genius because it sounds, upon just listening to it, not knowing that, you're like, you just kind of hear closing, and you're like, oh, this is just like the bar, you know? And, but if you listen to it knowing that that it was actually written about being in a hospital, like where they keep all the babies and, you know, and they like have strict hours and it's actually about that. And when I heard that and then I heard that song again, it was like, oh, wow, I actually like, you know, I never liked that song. But then I was like, okay, I have any respect for this song now that I know what it's about. And it's like way more like intelligent than I thought it was, you know, like.
Yeah. I remember I was reading it because I got like dead obsessed with George Jones for a while. And there's the song, The Grand Tour. And I was like trying to find out like the meaning behind it or like find the songwriter and see what that was. And it's obviously just a heartbreak where it's like, over there sits the chair, and it's like she left, but then someone put up a theory that it was the wife and the baby had passed away, and it made it like an even sadder song. I was like, holy shit, is that a popular song that was like a #1 single for George Jones, and it's about like matricide?
Oh God. Could have been, you know, like.
We'll find out for you.
let me know.
I got a guy.
You got a guy?
Ask. Yeah.
Who's your guy?
Yeah, he used to play with George. Oh, yeah, we'll see.
Oh, I know who it is.
We'll see. That's pretty brutal, though.
Yeah, because it was, and then it's, I can't remember the line of it, but it's, then they tore my heart away or something, and you're like, oh my God, has he lost his entire family in this song?
Yeah. Some of the old country was really extra brutal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like they really.
Sometimes I don't even know how those people were like still walking and breathing and like making it and like actually having the energy to be creative and make music, you know, like because of all the tragic stuff that was happening in their life. like how did you even find the strength to get up and go write that song? Because there have been times when some of the material was just too traumatic, you know. I was actually talking to somebody about that the other day. Like sometimes I can't process something with music because it's too like I would start to write it and I would just cry for 4 hours, you know. So it's like it would take 4 years or something to be able to like revisit that emotional moment in time without it just tearing me to pieces, you know. So I think it's a gift when people can write about something that tragic in the midst of it. You know, like channel it into something creative.
Yeah, there's like a catharsis and a mourning process to stuff like that. I think that, you know, obviously they couldn't do it when it was fresh, but with perspective and stuff, they can come back to it. But that's what I'm always not confused about, but you hear about like mainstream radio not wanting to play things, and they, you know, Taylor Swift's new albums just come out and they say it's like too emotional. But then, you know, 40 years ago, you had George Jones singing like the most heartbreaking songs ever. And like He Stopped Loving Her Today and stuff. And it's like, how is that not how is it not the same thing?
Yeah.
And how can music be too emotional?
Yeah.
Like, what? What is that? That's what music is. That's like that connects, right? Is the stuff that connects emotionally with other people. I don't know. To me, you know, I know some people just like to tap their foot, but like for me, I want to like feel something. You know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's like, I don't know if people don't want to admit it, but I have like a sad song playlist where it's like, okay, I want to just sit here and like be an emotional wreck for a bit, and I'll just put that playlist on because it is, again, it's just a cathartic, like cleansing experience to have those type of songs. They're a necessity for you.
I have an album for that too.
Yeah. One
album, Julie Lee, Till and Mule. That's my Ball Your Eyes Out album.
I have there's Maggot Brain by Funkadelic is like the lead-in track, and then I'll put Dark Was the Night on by Blind Willie Johnson, and then there's an artist called Anthony and the Johnsons, and there's a song called Hope There's Someone, and that just leaves me a mess by the end of the track.
So good time.
I'm honestly surprised that maybe I haven't heard this Funkadelic song.
You know that song.
It's like a 10-minute guitar solo.
It's pretty out there.
Oh,
it's fantastic.
Eddie Hazel was the guitarist on it, and apparently from like when they were in the studio, the producer or whoever said, play this solo as if you've just found out your mother's just died.
Oh God.
And it's like the most heart-wrenching guitar like piece I've ever listened to. And I'm not a fan of like Joe Satriani and things like that, but this is just a perfect like display of emotion from that instrument.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a epic guitar solo for sure. Yeah. That's...
Okay, I'm gonna have to go listen to it.
Yeah, I'll send you a playlist after this. I'll drop you an email with a must listen. But make sure you're in a good place before you open the email. You're not going to be like too upset to it. You don't have anything to do for the rest of the day.
Right.
Or if I just like need to cry, so I might just use it for that. You know, that's what we need. We need to make another Spotify playlist that's just like sad songs. And have fun doing that during quarantine, like making Spotify playlists. And,
yeah.
I was like, we're out of ideas. Now we have a new one.
But we're coming up to the hour mark, and obviously I don't want to keep you guys too long. So obviously we're in the middle of the pandemic and things. Do you have any plans after Shine to, you know, get back out and tour and come over to the UK and Europe?
Well, we've just been emailing about that, kind of trying to gauge like what's going on over there. So it looks like people are starting to stir around, like maybe putting out some, I don't know. We're going to see what's going on in the middle of next year, kind of looking at, but then again, I also just saw like on Facebook today, a friend of mine out west is, I don't know, there's like a lot of promoters of festivals and stuff here in the States in early 2021, they're all starting to cancel. So, I mean, it's probably going to be middle to late next year before anything super cool is happening, but we're doing like live streams as much as we can. Some of the venues here in Nashville have kind of invested money into their live stream situation. And so like we're doing some of that stuff and like, you know, maybe play like some house shows and some smaller shows like that, you know, just kind of getting out there when we can, when it seems right and safe. And then, but you know, it's just going to be a minute for it to open up. So, but yeah, we're starting to kind of put the feelers out there for next year and just going to kind of see what's going on, but it's nobody has any answers.
That's the thing. I think it's like, it's hard because I've been looking at booking like a tour around and stuff, and you don't even know what venues are going to be standing by the end of it. Yeah, so you don't want to like put your foot in your mouth too fast and then have to change a load of dates.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of been my take on it too. It's like it's like, do I want to spend a bunch of time to book a bunch of dates in like middle of next year just to have to reschedule them all? Because it's kind of where, I mean, people already, you know, there are a lot of people that already rescheduled their stuff for the fall, which obviously has been canceled again for this fall.
If you schedule something and then your anchor date falls through, and it's like, well, then you're going out on this tour and you're like, you're in the hole, you know, because you're. So it's just like,
I think we're gonna like write a new record is probably what's gonna happen. And
like everybody else,
you know, just like, I mean, like, there could be worse things happening, so have the time to write some more, and when the water's right and safe, like we'll get back out on the road, and definitely want to come back to the UK. Like we went done 2 UK tours and really have had a great time.
Yeah,
both times.
Loved it. Loved it.
Went up and down the whole. Up to Scotland and all the way down to
Wales,
all the way over to Wales and all the way down to Dorset, and you know, like, so we've seen a good part of the country over there, and everybody was wonderful. So we want to come back.
Oh, amazing!
I would like to stay, but I don't think you guys would take us.
Yeah.
Oh, we definitely would, but we've come to an hour, guys, and obviously you've got so much more to do for the rest of the day, so I'll let you guys go. But thank you so much for coming on this, and hopefully by the middle of next year we can do a live version and a part 2 of this.
Sweet.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
We'll catch you later.
And there we have it, folks. That's episode 13 of Into the Van. I've been having such a fucking trip doing these podcasts and getting to talk to these people. And, you know, as a, you know, on a personal and professional level, I'm hoping that I'm slowly getting more professional, or, you know, helping to carry a conversation, asking questions that people find interesting, most importantly, asking questions that I hope they find interesting. as someone who does press as well, you know, you get asked a lot of questions. So I always try and ask questions that I wish I was asked, or something that I think would lead to a good tangent or a good story or a good example that'll be interesting to not just listen to for myself, but it'll be interesting for them to think about and explain. And hopefully through that process, it'll be interesting to listen to as well for you guys. So, you know, let me know what you think. Let me know if we think we should change this podcast to something other than Into the Van, because as I keep saying, this isn't Into the Van really anymore until we can get back on our feet and travel around. Who knows what's going to happen. But, you know, go listen to Shine by the Danberrys and then go check out their back catalogue. The evolution of them as an artist is really a phenomenal and interesting thing to watch, and how good the songs are. And this podcast, just as a fan and a listener myself, has made me give each album, you know, another listen through and really process them as people and perform as an artist. And it's been such a fucking fun experience. But yeah, I hope you've had fun, guys. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace.